correctness meets Christian apologetics. This is truth, the objective reality.
Hello there, everyone. To those of you who've been following me for a while, you may or may not know that several months ago, I used to be part of a weekly live stream that Brett Keane did on his YouTube channel. And sometimes he would upload some of the episodes of those live streams onto his BitChute channel. So if you happen to follow Brett Keane's BitChute channel, or you did, you may have seen some of those live streams that I was a part of. There was a guy on those live streams who went by the username Smokey Saint. This guy was a old Earth creationist of the Hugh Ross variety, and there was one particular episode where he and I had a back and forth argument regarding old versus young Earth creationism. And I actually got him to admit that he strawmans young Earth creationism and young Earth creationists in order to make us look bad and to make it seem like we're a bunch of intellectual doofuses. So many months ago, in one of the live streams in the private chat of the SteamYard studio that we were in, Smokey Saint sent a couple of links to Brett that was supposed to provide evidence for billions of years, and they were supposed to be the articles that convinced Smokey Saint that old Earth creationism in billions of years are true. And we're going to be looking at one of those articles today because I find the article both absolutely hilarious and completely and utterly disgusting. And just so you know what kind of person Smokey Saint is, Brett Keane put out a video back in November titled Brett Keane Smokes a Saint. And basically, without even touching the topic of creationism, Brett Keane explained what a douche nozzle Smokey Saint is as a person. And so now that you know that Smokey Saint is an old Earth creationist, and now that you know that Brett Keane can testify that Smokey Saint is a douche nozzle, we can take a look at one of the articles that Smokey Saint sent to Brett Keane. This article comes from the Reasons to Believe website and is titled An Evaluation of Evidence for the Age of the Universe. This was posted by Hugh Ross on March 7th, 2012. And this particular article is actually just Hugh Ross copying and pasting from a PDF file. And he includes the link to the PDF file at the bottom of the article. So I'm just going to read this entire article, and then I'm going to make commentary at various points. And with that in mind, let's get into the article. The following statement, prepared by the scholars whose names are attached, must be given in its entirety wherever it is reproduced. Copyright held collectively by the authors, 2010. A group of Christians professionally trained in astronomical research has reviewed presentations by Dr. Danny Faulkner and Hugh Ross, covering arguments on the age of the universe. We appreciate the civility and respect of the discourse on a topic often generating more heat than light within the Christian community. Our analysis concentrates on arguments made by the speakers dealing with astronomical data and calculations rather than about biblical interpretation or biological evolution, because the former are our areas of professional expertise. We do note that, for example, one's view of scriptural interpretation and theology will affect the range of models one would consider. That is technically true, because you see, if you just accept the straightforward contextual reading of the Bible, you're going to come to a completely different conclusion regarding origins than you do if you reinterpret the Bible in light of evolution and billions of years and Big Bang cosmology like the old Earth creationists do. Let us not forget that it was William Lane Craig who said that even though we're not supposed to reinterpret the Bible in light of modern science, what we have to do is take the data from the Bible and take the data from modern science, and we have to integrate them into a synoptic worldview that makes sense of the data in both. In other words, William Lane Craig said we need to reinterpret the Bible in light of modern science, even though we're not supposed to. And when you consider what William Lane Craig had to say, and you consider what other old earth creationists like Frank Turek have had to say, you begin to realize that old earth creationism is already on losing ground, because they already admit that they don't accept the straightforward contextual reading of the Bible in order to come to their worldview. So yes, when you accept the straightforward and contextual reading of the Bible, you're going to come to a completely different conclusion than if you reinterpret the Bible in light of billions of years, Big Bang cosmology, and evolution, like old earth creationists like Hugh Ross do. But let's get into the article more. Our aim has been to assess the evidence for the age of the universe in the light of the arguments presented using a standard scientific approach. Science seeks to make progress in understanding the physical world through inductive reasoning rather than the watertight proofs found in mathematics. This means that scientific understanding advances through an enormous amount of focused incremental efforts with many consistency checks in the context of a mutually accountable scientific community. Drawing sound conclusions about a general question such as the age of the universe cannot be done on the basis of one argument alone, but requires many different independent experiments, including tests that could falsify competing claims. Any conclusions, along with an evaluation of their certainty, are then made on the basis of the overall weight of the available evidence. And this is where things get funny. There will often be some data that appears to disagree with the rest of the evidence. This does not automatically provide evidence for alternative hypotheses, but often means that our theoretical understanding is not yet entirely complete. And this is a load of hooey, because it's not just some data that disagrees with the rest of the evidence, it's that most or all of the data disagrees with the premise of billions of years in Big Bang cosmology and evolution. That entire worldview is based on authoritarianism. You have to believe the people telling you that those things are true in order to believe that it's true. You can't actually confirm with observation in the present, which is the backbone and underpinning of science, in order to come to those conclusions. You just simply can't. It's not possible. Ross's arguments provide solid evidence that the universe is billions of years old. He presents several independent arguments based on a wide range of data, indicating that the universe and most objects in it are much older than 10,000 years. The light travel time argument is particularly strong in both its basis in physical principles and its simplicity. Faulkner does not present evidence for a universe thousands of years old, but rather makes claims for isolated inconsistencies in the case for great age. While it is common scientific practice to look for holes in well-established theories, the new contrary evidence must either be very strong to counter the existing evidence for the theory, or else be supported by a new theory that readily explains both the new evidence and old. We judge that the inconsistencies pointed out by Faulkner do not meet either of these criteria. So we have to stop right here, because what we've read so far in this paragraph demands a response. What the authors of this statement, the ones whose names are signed at the bottom, is saying is that, well, yeah, the young earth creationist Danny Faulkner is showing that the evidence Hugh Ross is presenting to support billions of years is either horribly flawed or completely false. But you can't just prove that billions of years and old earth creationism is false. You have to provide evidence that that young earth creationism is true. And unfortunately for you guys, that's not how reality works. And Sherlock Holmes is the one who's going to be teaching you this lesson today. So I go to this article where we have the top 10 Sherlock Holmes quotes. And in quote number 3, which is a quotation from page 111, chapter 6 of The Sign of the Four, we see Sherlock Holmes say the following. "You will not apply my precept," he said, shaking his head. "How often have I said to you that when you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth? We know that he did not come through the door, the window, or the chimney. We also know that he could not have been concealed in the room, as there is no concealment possible. When, then, did he come?" And notice the part that's underlined. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. So we have two choices here in this scenario. We have old Earth creationism versus young Earth creationism. Old Earth, billions of years, versus young Earth, 6,000 years. If Danny Faulkner was able to prove that the so-called evidence supporting old Earth creationism was either horribly flawed or completely false, then old Earth creationism is impossible. If old Earth creationism and old Earth is impossible, then that means that young Earth, however improbable, however much old Earth creationists don't like it, is the truth. Sherlock Holmes laid out a true principle. When you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, however improbable, must be the truth. And in terms of old versus young Earth, we can prove that old Earth creationism is false, that billions of years is impossible. Well, if you prove that billions of years is impossible by showing that the evidence used to support it is no good and false, then young Earth is true by default because it's the only one left. And now that we have seen this simple truth laid out by Sherlock Holmes, we can turn to the statement that the people who signed made, and we can see that they are just flat out wrong. We have old Earth versus young Earth, and if you can prove that old Earth is impossible by showing that the evidence used to support it is false and not true, then young Earth is true by default. You don't need to present evidence supporting a young Earth if you can prove that an old Earth is impossible. And young Earth creationists have been proving an old Earth to be impossible for decades. So sorry guys, but Danny Faulkner does not need to provide positive evidence for a young Earth if he is able to prove that the evidence for an old Earth is false and that an old Earth is impossible. Young Earth is true by default if he's able to do that. And he and other young Earth creationists for decades have done that. But let's finish reading this article. We judge that the inconsistencies pointed out by Faulkner do not meet either of these criteria. In some instances, the observations are completely consistent with our current understanding of these physical systems in the context of an old universe. In others, while universally accepted interpretations don't exist today and our knowledge is often still incomplete, such explanations are likely to be forthcoming as observations and theory progress. It is our professional judgment that the weight of the evidence overwhelmingly supports a universe that is billions of years old. And then it shows the names of all the people who signed this statement, and wouldn't you know it, they all have PhDs. So what the people who made this statement and attached their name to are really saying is, we declare on the basis of our self-proclaimed authority and the PhDs after our name and the suits and ties we wear and the lab coats that we wear that old Earth creationism, billions of years, is true and that young Earth creationism is false because you see, we're the authority figures here. We have the PhDs, we have the credentials, and so you have to believe what we say. We're the ultimate arbiters about reality. What the authors of this statement are saying, essentially, is that billions of years and an old Earth and universe is true because we say so. This is not the first time that Reasons to Believe has presented this line of argumentation. Back in July of 2018, I put out a video titled Reasons to Believe Elevates Men Over the Bible on Origins. I will have the link to this video in the description box below, and it is in this video where, in regards to the body of essays called The Fundamentals that was written about 100 years ago, Reasons to Believe says, well, the authors of The Fundamentals, who were mostly old Earth creationists, did not address young Earth creationism in that body of work. Well, then young Earth creationism must not be one of the fundamentals of the biblical worldview. In other words, young Earth creationism is not a fundamental of the biblical worldview because this group of men 100 years ago said so. That is no different than this article that Smokey Saint provided to me and Brett Keane, which essentially says The universe and Earth are billions of years old because this group of PhDs who signed this statement said so. Just because a group of authority figures say that something is true does not make it so. And the fact that Smokey Saint touted this article as the kind of things that made him convert to old Earth creationism shows what an intellectual weakling and gullible fool that he is. He fell for the old authoritarianism two-step. Well, folks, that's all I have for you. If you liked what you saw in this video and you want to help me go from being a part-time to full-time content creator, I would encourage you to hit the subscribe button, check out my other videos, leave your likes and comments below. If you'd like to contribute financially to TTOR, I would encourage you to do so because every little bit helps. And if you would like to do so, you can go to my Subscribestar account, you can buy me coffees at my coffee page, or you can purchase products from my Teespring store. Links to all three of those are in the description box below. Thank you for watching, and have an excellent day.